5 people here, and that's what the quorum is. There's a sign-up sheet out there, and if you want to talk on any of this stuff, if you don't mind signing up, just so we can keep up with what's what, or so Gardner can keep up with it. I try my best not to have to. We ain't wanting your name so we can get you on the FBI list or anything. We just want to try to keep up with who's for and who's against stuff. Is Matt Dollar in here? He had said something about wanting to go first, but since he's not, Representative Burns, you want to throw your lawyering ability on us with House Bill, whatever it is?
Yes, sir.
598. Wherever you want to get. That's fine. Let me.
Very well on my feet. I don't think very well on my feet. And it looks like I'm the odd man out. The other two guys aren't here, so I'll go then.
Well,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
go right at it.
House Bill 598 is an attempt, in conjunction with the Department of Ag, to really streamline some of the procedures and put the department on the same footing as other state departments on their hearing process. Like I say, some of these rules were passed about 4 years ago. They've just been used and put in implementation in the last couple of years, really used to find out what was working and what was not working. And that's our attempt today to make sure that the public's being served in this effort. We've deleted some areas and added some, but basically what happens when there's an issue that comes before the department, there's a hearing officer makes an initial decision. Then that decision has a right of appeal before it goes to the commissioner for the final agency review. After the commissioner renders the final agency review, one thing we're taking out on, let me get to the appropriate page, on page 2, at the end of that of L1, it says, further, once the initial decision is final and a party's right to judicial review shall be extinguished. That's not correct in exactly the way it says it, and I had a misunderstanding on that when I read it. That simply means that the issue is referred on to the Superior Court, or can be referred on appeal on the Superior Court. And right above that, the language that's added just really clarifies the timing when the initial decision is issued from the hearing officer, the 30 days with the commissioners, the appeal in 30 days, and the appeal to the commissioner and by the commissioner. Those times were overlapping and really confusing and did not allow the department to move forward with this public protection portion of what the department really does for us in so many ways. So we're really just clarifying those areas, a little housekeeping in that part of the bill. Really the thing that helps the bill is the last part of it is in section 3A. In that part of the bill, it makes a request, I guess we could say a request, or requires, Superior Court to take some action after we've gone through the process within the department, with the hearing process and with the commissioner, requires the Superior Court to take some action, finalizing the decision of the department. Now, when that finalization by Superior Court takes place, that's still the right of appeal still exists for the citizen or for the business, and they would then go to the Court of Appeals. But what this basically does, though, is just moves the process along. I think it serves the public interest from the standpoint it protects the public safety, because the department's oversight on several important issues that affects the public is protected here. And just, like I say, again, streamlines the process and encourages government to move forward and render a decision so we all know where we are and what we need to do. And I'll be glad to try to answer any questions, and I would ask for your favorable consideration on this 596. The department's here. If there's some questions they may need to take, Mr. Chairman, but...
Thank you, Representative Burns. Does anybody have any questions for John or the department?
I'm sorry for being a minute late. The commissioner supported this bill?
Yes, he is. We bring it at the request of the department. It's really a department bill. and does some housekeeping. And
My only concern was is if we are requiring the Superior Court to issue a hearing within 30 days, and with all due respect to my brethren on the bench, sometimes they're not the most efficient. We won't be adversely affecting the consumer, will we, by having that requirement if the court doesn't issue it within 30 days? Other than that, 90, I know there's a 90 day. But as long as they continue to enter continuances, we'll protect the consumer.
the consumer, yes, the consumer will be protected. We can take care of them now.
Anybody else? Get a motion? Got a motion, second? Motion and second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Thank you, John, did good. 567. We were gonna let you go first, but, you know, I got up at 4 o'clock this morning. What time did you get up? Have at it, Matt. You were just getting in when I was getting up.
I had to run over from a appropriations subcommittee meeting, Mr. Chairman. I apologize. This is a simple little consumer protection bill. It was brought to my attention by a constituent who came to me complaining, and I guess I could kind of identify because the similar situation happened to me, and I imagine it's probably happened to any member of this committee who's gone through the process of trying to fill out these rebate forms and take off the proof of purchase and copy the receipt and do all the things that you have to do when you go and like buy a computer or buy a piece of office equipment is, I think, what these things are most commonly associated with. The problem is that, the original problem we thought was that there was not a means by which a person who never received it and would go call the company, wait, sometimes several hours on hold to speak with somebody to try to clear something up for a $50 rebate form, and there wasn't a means by which a person could take them to court and get damages. Well, after a little further review, it turns out that there was an obscure wording in the law where a person could go and I guess claim triple the damages. Beyond that, I thought it was a good idea to go ahead and move it from, these things are almost always, it will say 6 to 8 weeks, and you'd be hard pressed to get one before 8 weeks, I can tell you. I've done several of these since this was brought to my attention out of curiosity to see really how it worked. And more often than not, it would take over 2 months to get these things back, and by that time, the average person has forgotten about it. And it's really, it was my belief that after looking at this and talking to a bunch of folks, that the system almost seemed to be designed for a person to forget about these rebates. In this supposed digital age that we live in, I think that 30 days is enough time upon which a company receives the money to get you a check back, because after all, as long as you have jumped through all the hoops and done things that you're supposed to do, it is in fact your money. So, Mr. Chairman, all this does is says that a company practicing in Georgia that does these rebates has to act, either get you a letter saying that it's going to take longer due to X, Y, or Z, or get you your check.
Thank you, Representative Dawes. Anybody have any questions? Doc?
If they get a letter that says that it's going to take 3 or 4 months, that's okay? It doesn't make any difference on the length once they get the letter?
As I understand it, the company has 30 days by which to act. And if they say, okay, there's a problem, you didn't dot this I or cross this T when you filled out your rebate form, that has to be done within 30 days. Okay. Yes, Ms. House.
Sometimes you see that certain promotional items are excluded in certain states. This doesn't apply to this state and that state. This wouldn't keep people from giving us rebates in Georgia by having such a short-term run time.
I can't answer that question, actually. I introduced this bill several weeks ago, and the only company or interest that has even contacted me on this, I got a call from T-Mobile yesterday, and they said that their internal legal people were still looking at it to see how it would affect them. I don't know if those rebates, if you see it's excluded in Virginia or whatever, I don't know if they're more stringent laws to where they may not be able to do rebates. I don't see this as so prohibitive that a company wouldn't do it if it would still affect their sales in Georgia.
Do other states have this 30-day?
I don't know. I should probably call ALEC or NCLS on that. But I'm not sure if there's a 30-day, 60-day, whatever it says. I just thought that 30 seemed like enough time.
Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody else have any more questions for the author? Thank you, Representative Dollar. We've got a couple of people want to speak on your bill.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. John Heavener. Tell me if I'm saying Heavener. Okay.
Chairman McCall and members of the committee, thank you for being here this week. I know that you could be out doing other business, and thank you for doing that. And I was up at 5:30 this morning to go out and feed the horses before I was down here at a 9 o'clock meeting. So I was up, not quite as early as you, but I was up this morning. I'm John Heavener. I do represent the Georgia Retail Association. And as you look at the handout today, retailers are a big part of Georgia's business. We're 1 in 5 jobs, gross sales of $115 million. We have 715,000 workers in Georgia, and my members serve the state out of 14,000 locations across the state. We have some concerns with this bill, and we ask you to listen carefully about why we think the bill has problems, and probably we would oppose the bill for those reasons. First of all, let me say, in the last 6 months, I have purchased 3 items that were rebated. I bought a refrigerator at the Home Depot. I bought a Hewlett-Packard computer and a Hewlett-Packard printer. The Home Depot got me a card, a credit, rebate card, which I could use at Home Depot. It took about 6 weeks. I got a computer, took about 7 weeks, and the printer took about 3 weeks. So I don't know what the difference is. I didn't mail them all the same day. They weren't all bought at the same time. A couple of things can happen. First of all, if you all have never had a problem with the U.S. mail, then there's no problem at all with this bill. But I have gotten things, and I'm serious about this, in 6, 8, 10 weeks after postmark in the mail. I've also got things that have been a couple years in the mail that have lost from previous addresses, and it probably has happened to you or somebody you know. So there's an inherent problem delivery of this bill as it's written. 2, most of my members who I've spoken with, and I've spoken to a lot of them, get rebates out in 4 to 6 weeks if it's their item. The problem with that is most of the rebates these days come from the manufacturers and not the retailers. But who do we pick on if things don't get back in time in Georgia? We don't call the manufacturer. We call Best Buy or Home Depot or Sears, whoever we got the item from. They have no control over it in most cases. So we're passing a law here that's going to be an anti-consumer bill because it's going to get the consumers mad. It's going to aggravate the retailers. It's going to create issues between retailers and customers. And believe me, all my members want to keep customers happy. Nobody's out there to perturb customers. It just isn't in our best interests. 3, retailers need to ensure that there's a valid process. Fraud is a big issue for retailers in the state of Georgia and across the country. We lose millions of dollars nationwide, hundreds of thousands of dollars in localities here in Georgia where people are fraudulently obtaining goods, including rebates. We've had a lot of faked rebate forms, and it's an issue for us. So we want the process to be deliberately slow so people can't come in and quickly defraud the retailer. One state in the country has even gone as far as demanding instant rebates only. That's Massachusetts, and the fraud is even there. So there's people out there who are going to beat the system every way they can, unfortunately, and we like a process that's deliberative, not overly slow, but deliberative in addressing this. And organized crime also hurts the state of Georgia, and that's where part of the rebate issue comes from. We did a project for the Ways and Means Committee where we showed the state of Georgia lost $30 million a year because of tax revenue lost by organized crime. And we have organized crime involved in faking rebate forms as well. Now, if we go to a system that's different in Georgia than most other states, we're going to cause my members additional money. There's 55 market areas in the country which most of my major retailers do circulars in. And if they have to make changes in those circulars, they've got to make them 7 months in advance in most cases. They've got to do special art, special printing, and it's going to increase the cost of doing business in Georgia. We're a business-friendly state. This patently is not a business-friendly bill, and we, for that reason, would oppose it as well. We had one member who does business in 55 states, so this change that it would make would cost them anywhere from up to $3 million a year if every state in the country, every those 55 markets, would adopt this kind of legislation. We don't want that. Now, I talked to some members before the meeting today, and they said, yeah, but some rebates are never sent in. That's true. My wife loves rebates, but she's never sent one in. It's always up to me to remember to do it. She'll spend the money, but she won't send the rebate form in. So that's one issue I've got to live with. But 40% of all rebates are never cashed in. You say, well, isn't that a problem? Well, it's not a problem because in the free market system, that's what helps determine the ultimate price you as a consumer pay. If everyone turned rebates in, then the price would go up. You have to understand that's a business model. No one's in retail business to give things away for free. They're in it to make a profit. And because of that profit we make in Georgia, we do employ 1 in 5 Georgians. We do bring in $115 billion to the state of Georgia. We are a valid part of our economy. The retail segment collects for Georgia 35% of your state revenue in sales taxes. They pay another 10% of revenue in payroll taxes. So the retail segment, which we're going to regulate here today, is a big part of our economy. We don't want to fetter that economy, which isn't broken. There are some issues. Now, I don't like waiting seven weeks for a rebate on a refrigerator, but you know what? It works, and I know to expect that. It's not broken. Finally, if you have to enact things of this kind, give us time to do it. I mean, what the retailer told me, they advertise in 55 different markets. They said, if we have to live with a change like this, we have to change everything we do for Georgia. It's a process that could take anywhere 6 months to a year to implement. So we ask you to carefully don't encumber our businesses. It's not broken. It's not ideal. I want to close with a little story. I love cartoons, and there's a cartoon called Family Circus that used to be in the paper. It showed a little girl and her daddy going to an ATM. She says, Daddy, if you get money here, why do you got to go to work? And that's the same thing here. It's a process that works. It's not as quick as we'd like it to work. It's not broken. And there are a lot of things which impact this, such as a postal service, which we think are unfair limits on our businesses. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. You mind answering a question or two?
I'd be happy to.
Kev?
I understand what you're saying about the business model and all that. I don't think anybody wants you to lose money on your business because that doesn't help us and it certainly doesn't help you. But I guess what I'm wondering is what's the in-between? Representative Dollar's proposing one set of deadlines, but what I've heard you say is just that you oppose any. Is there a model that a timeline that you can accept?
What my members have told me is probably not acceptable to you, and that's 90 days. They don't take that long. But you want to cover the worst-case scenario. If any of you have ever been in a retail situation or a business situation where you've got to face nose-to-nose somebody who's mad because he didn't get the service they wanted, the price they wanted, and that's not a good situation to put retailers in. It's not a good place to put a $10.50 an hour clerk in. It's not an ideal situation. And you say that situation is ideal. It's not ideal. But I like to go to the ATM and draw out money without working. I can't do that. I like to have my rebate, within 2 weeks. I can't do that. And I think it's not broken. If it's not broken, why do we want to pass another law? Seriously. Why do we want to pass another law that impacts on business that isn't broken? Yes, sir.
Can I have a follow-up?
Yeah.
Well, I guess Representative Dollar's constituent will probably have a different view of that. And I understand what your view is. I guess, as I understand the bill is drafted, it's not requiring that you get the money back. It's requiring that you send some kind of acknowledgement within 30 days. And that in and of itself would impose a true hardship on your member organizations, member businesses?
Representative, I don't know what the price for a business letter is today. Back when I was in grad school, the price for a business letter was $28. And I'm sure it's not that much today because of the computerization, but it's still a cost. It's still an additional layer of business that we're not currently doing. And if people weren't getting their rebates back at all, then I'd say we have an issue. But patience is needed many times. I wish I had instant rebate of my IRS refunds when I get one. I never get one from the state of Georgia. I always pay the state of Georgia. But having said that, it's just one of those things. We have to, some things do take time to run through the proper channels. I think this is one that's not broken. Again, I say it's not broken, and I hope you'll think about that as you vote.
Mr. Chairman, may I have just one last question?
Yeah.
Well, can you give me, and maybe I'm the only one that is interested in this, but can you give me an idea of why it would take, I understand this crime rooting out the fraud, but why would it take so long just to get some paperwork back when you say it's not broken? I mean, I'll be honest with you, one of the things I can't stand about the IRS is they get to hold my money. They've told me I'm getting it back, but they get to hold my money for a while, and be honest with you, modeling yourself out of the IRS may not be the biggest selling point
Probably
for me.
a faulty analogy.
Right, but so what I'm trying to see is if there isn't some compromise, because I really don't want to. I don't like. We pass way too many bills that encumber businesses, and we've got some gun bills that are trying to do the same thing that I'm not in favor of. So I'm not out here to tell you I want to encumber businesses. I want to try and strike that balance of what's fair to the consumer and what's fair to y'all. And what I'm asking for is, rather than just tell us we think everything's fine, can you give us something to work with that if the only choices are no restrictions or restrictions, you may find that folks are going to fall down on the side of the consumer. But if there's some middle ground that you could come to and say, look, we're not happy about this, but give us something. 90 days doesn't seem to me it's that much different than what's going on now.
And I agree with what we're saying. We truly believe it's not broken. We have an industry here that's employing a lot of Georgians, paying a lot of taxes. I'm representing over 700,000 people here today. And I know Representative Dollar is very sincere about his constituent that complained. And we have these bills crop up every once in a while in the legislature. You're well aware of this. We have people who go to the legislature, I had a problem. And because of that problem, this person is very serious about it, very emotional about it, says, fix this. But there aren't 700,000 people here in the room today asking you to fix this. I'm here on behalf of employers of 700,000 people saying, leave it alone because it's not broken.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman.
Thank you. But wait a minute, let me get Ellis, who was next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Evans, first off, your handout here depicts very well the wide spectrum of the rebate business. And the question that I have is you expect it to be possible for you to get with Representative Dollar and work on some things to address what I consider the major problem from the standpoint. Your handout here shows that, when you talk about rebates, you talk about everything from a 20% rebate on the debt-free purchase all the way up to $5,000 rebate on an automobile purchase. And my concern, well, first off, I'm going to challenge you on the business about this. The system being broken, it's not broken. Well, it may not be broken, but it's got to serious cracks like this whenever we have got a situation that I feel like consumers are being abused when they're not being responded to in an appropriate manner and time, and particularly when you talk about these major rebates on major purchases. It looks to me like that there might be some opportunities to sit down and work with us.
We'd be happy to try to find language y'all can find acceptable. We think that there's issues are probably easily resolved because we don't think there's a big issue, and so I appreciate your comments.
It's a situation where that I think certainly you need to take into consideration in crafting some legislation that does not wade into what I call the nickel and dime rebates. That a high percentage of them are not going to be redeemed. One of the interesting figures that you've got here, about 40% of the rebates are never redeemed, and I assume that's an average. I don't know whether it's an average of numbers or average of dollars. But,
It's an average of people.
my suspicion is when people get to merchandise and automobiles with these big rebates, like in other words, a much higher percentage of those are redeemed.
It's a different business model. We don't represent the automobile dealers, but most automobile dealers are instant rebates. You get them at the time of purchase. It's underwritten by the manufacturer. It's generally not the retailer who does that.
Well, I think My feeling is that I don't want to do anything to impair the retail ability to function in our market. At the same time, I would like to get these.
Well, Representative Black, I'd welcome the opportunity to sit down with the representative who sponsored the bill and tell Representative Dollar I'll get you in contact on the phone with some of my members. They can explain to him the business model, explain to him the limitations, and we can go from there and see what we need to do.
John, you know, I'm looking here when Representative Black just talked to you about the 40% of them not being redeemed, and I guess that's probably the reason that it will be the answer of what question I was going to ask you. But why don't you just give a discount on a price, let them sell a price at a discounted price rather than promise them a rebate? Does a rebate make it easier and more attractive for the consumer to buy it? Why the rebate rather than the discounted at the time of the sale?
I wish I could answer that concisely and exactly. I don't know. It's just a business model that works. I can't explain to you. I represent the retailers. I don't pretend to understand all the tactics and strategies they use. Having said that, generally we have one or two things happen. There's a model that the manufacturer really wants to push, and they work with the retailer to offer the rebates. It's the manufacturer's decision, not a retailer's decision. Generally, as automobile dealers do, they do this to spur on specific sales when sales are lagging or sales need to be increased. After that sales deficiency has been overcome, they go back to the regular price. Once you start discounting prices, then you can't go back to the model that you had before. And so if you understand what I'm saying, if you were selling it, an item for $5,000, you offer a $1,000 rebate, then when the rebate period's over, that's a $5,000 item giving you the margin you need to be profitable. However, if I mark it down to $4,000, that's the price the customer expects to pay all the time. And that's not a promotional item, then it's a permanently priced item. So that's basically as good as I can explain it.
Well, one last question, but you see other things that come in that says that price is good for only 10 days, 20 days, 1 day, you know, all these meat markets and so forth, or the Publix is so many days.
Yeah, and that's a marketing strategy to drive traffic into the business. And we don't make a sale if we don't get traffic. And the strategies are to get people into the store. If we don't get people into our stores, we don't make money and we don't get goods. I don't want to take too much of your time, but I just want to give you something I really feel very strongly about. We have some friends who come over from Europe and see us once in a while. My wife's parents are from England originally. So we get people from England. We've had some company from Germany. They come to America. They go crazy shopping. America is a retailing economy. People come here, they like the way we do business. They can't buy blue jeans here. They can't buy shirts here. They can't buy shoes here. They can't buy anything here cheaper than they can buy it back home. They love going to a department store. They like to have items to choose from, a wide variety. Our system's a great system, and we're going to toy with it just over this little issue. It's not broken. Leave it alone, please.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John, certainly I'm pro-business, but I'm pro-consumer as well. And you said it's not broken. If there's consumers that are having complaints out there, then certainly there's something wrong with the system, wouldn't you say?
I would say if we had an overwhelming number of complaints, I would be up there saying we need to fix this because our people want to keep the consumer happy. I've talked to Joe Doyle. You know Joe Doyle, Governor's Office of Consumer Affairs. Issue's not on his radar screen. So let's look at issues that are really on the radar screen that really hurt consumers. This isn't one of them.
Mr. Chairman, then I think John needs to address the fact that, not John, but the author needs to address the fact that if this is the only person that has contacted him or no. Because if there's enough consumers out there, then certainly I think it's an issue this gentleman should look at. But if it's just one, then maybe something else is wrong. But then the idea of saying, blaming it on the mail, you know, how do you think the U.S. Postal Service would think, how do you think they would look at the fact that you were saying that they are the cause of this problem to be here in the first place? I
wasn't blaming them. I said it's another factor we can't control at the retail level. And we don't want irate customers over factors we can't control. We can't control the mail. We can't control the manufacturers to a large degree. So we're in a situation here where our retailers will take the grief. Retailers will take the additional cost and burden. but they're not really a big issue as far as I see it in this problem, if it is a problem.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Can you just tell me what the problem is with me? As long as you got it, as I read the bill anyway, as long as you've done your part of mailing, whatever that date is, I don't care whether it's 30 or 60, whatever and I hope you and Representative Dollar are able to sit down and work on this, but as long as you put it in the mail, when it gets delivered, it is out of your hands. I don't think this statute requires that you guarantee delivery of that. It just says that you mail it, and I would submit to you that means putting it in the mail with enough postage on it, and that's the end of your responsibility as far as that goes. Did I also understand you to say that it had something to do with when consumers move, making sure that it gets to the right address? Or
No, I did not.
Okay. But so is that the problem? You're just talking about the actual delivery. Once you put it in the mail, that's out of your hands. Do you read something in the bill that I'm just missing that says that you are guaranteeing it be delivered to the customer within 30 days or just dropped in the mailbox?
I think that's the way the bill will be perceived in practical operation. I think it's going to be public expectation.
If we make it clear that it's just whatever date, assuming that goes through, whatever date it is, as long as we make it clear that your responsibility ends just like it does when you do legal documents, that you put it in the mail, would that alleviate that concern as far as worrying about whether the post office delivers it on time?
I don't know that without thinking through it a little
Okay.
bit. What I'd like to do actually is what you suggested. Sit down with Representative Dollar, maybe Joe Doyle, the Governor's Office of Consumer Affairs, put him on the phone with some of my members and really talk about the issues here. I don't think that they're big issues. I mean, if you look at Georgia's population and you look at the number of problems we have, they're small compared to other areas we have consumer problems. Really are.
I wish it were my idea, but it was Brother Black's idea, and he always comes up with good ones, so I'll defer to him on that. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
We got one more light on. I had some people come by the office this morning, and their concerns were, one, that a lot of times a third party is handling the rebates that the company may not have control over, and I'm just telling you what their concerns were. And the other one was that sometimes retailers put on a rebate from March the 1st to June the 1st, and they're not in the habit of sending the rebates back until the end of the rebate period, which would mess up the 30-day deal. That was a concern that the retailers had, and some of the people that came by this morning was, number one, the third party handling the rebates that the company or the retailer has no control over, or they say that they're not going to send out any rebates until the end of the rebate period. If you got your rebate in on the first day, you still have to wait till the end of the rebate period, which is just a policy, I guess. But that was some of the concerns that people that were in my office this morning had. Penny?
Thank you. I think sometimes we think about rebates just as rebates on big ticket items. But, you get rebates on makeup, Maybelline makeup, every week. Drugstores like Walmart, Eckerd, CVS, they have a circular that goes out with rebates on all sorts of makeup and everything. Maybe it's $1 rebate, and when you check out, you pick up these little cards to mail in. I think the ripple effect on this would be just astronomical. Are you talking about the rebates on big ticket items, or are you talking about a $1 rebate on a tube of Revlon lipstick? I mean, I can't imagine I'm surprised that 40% of the rebates are turned in. I know I'm always picking up those little things at drugstores and everything, but I never do. Occasionally I might send them in. But this is I feel like if for some unknown reason that Maybelline Cosmetics did not give rebates to people in Georgia, you're going to make a lot of folks, you might have one person complain about this, but you're going to make a lot of women who get those circulars every Sunday in that Sunday paper that's thick with these things, and they sit down and decide what drugstore they're going to because who's got the best rebates. You're going to make more folks mad than you're going to make happy. And I believe we ought to put this in a study committee and really see what kind of economic impact this is going to have on consumers. A lot of women really shop rebates and specials and look at these things because consumers are trying to cut costs. I just don't think you can send $1 rebate out in 30 days. And as far as the mail, I live in Nashville, Georgia, and if you mail a letter from Atlanta at CLOB on Friday, I might get it the next Thursday. And I just think this is a big thing. We just think we're talking about computers and stuff like that, but folks want their quarter rebate on their tube of toothpaste. And I wish we could put this in a study committee because this could have a big effect on our economy. And I don't think that we're meant for it to. And I move we put it in the study committee.
Ms. Penny, instead of a study committee, would you move to put it in a subcommittee?
A subcommittee. Yes,
so they can
subcommittee. I meant to say subcommittee. I don't think we ought to not a study committee, a subcommittee, and study this.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be recognized a second.
Okay, now we got a motion and a second. John, you go right. We don't.
Turn it off. That solves it.
All right, there's a motion and a second to put this thing in Consumer Affairs Subcommittee and let everybody sit down and hash out some numbers and get happy with it, or semi-happy, both sides. Is there any discussion on that?
Just a brief comment. I don't think I'm on that subcommittee, but my concern lies with the manufacturer's rebate that the retailer is held responsible for, and I wish the representative would address that part of it when we look at it.
Actually, this bill needs some work. We need that put in, and I appreciate the hearing on it. One thing that needs to happen is we need to make, if ever give a rebate, we need to assign them responsibility, whether it's the manufacturer. If HP is doing the rebate, the person that needs to go after that's fine. That is one thing. I appreciate y'all listening to it. I'm happy for this.
In my humble and inexperienced opinion, this thing ain't got a chance of getting out this year anyway, because we got to do 2 budgets and everything else in 3 days. So if you could study it and get everybody semi-happy until next year,
I would
putting it in a subcommittee will keep it alive.
Yeah, I would argue that the system may not be broken for the retailers, but it is somewhat fractured for the consumers, and I think this thing deserves to work. So I appreciate it, Jeff.
I think everybody sitting up here wants to fix the problem when it is one, and if it's a consumer problem, identify it and see what we can do with it. And instead of rushing through it, maybe we need to get Jay and them to look at it over a period of time and come back next year with it. Is that satisfactory to everybody?
Be happy to work with him.
All right. I guess we need to vote to put it in subcommittee. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. All right, thank y'all.